think we're ready. Yeah. All right. Hello. So we are doing a youth panel discussion here, and we have kind of cobbled together youth of various ages, including the very brave and gracious Toby, who we just recruited. Toby's 9. This is my son Matthias. He's 14. This is Manuel, who's 21, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. And of course, Toby, who's 9. And the goal of this is for to get a little bit of the youth perspective on being a Christian in the modern culture, and what most importantly what we as the church can do to nurture their faith in the world today. So I'm going to just pass the mic down and ask you guys to just say, what kind of school you go to, because that's important. We got public school, private school range here, and let's just start with that.
Hello, as I've already been introduced, I'm Matthias Basin. I am a 9th grader in a public high school. I have gone to public school all my life with people of various different religions, and a lot of them, I've heard mixed things about Christianity. Some of them, a lot of the people who I grew up with are Christian, but not they don't really show their faith that much. It's definitely very mixed, where the school that I come from.
Hello again, I'm Manuel. I experienced public school in New Jersey. I was there for 12 years, so that I moved here. And I graduated public school at Easton High School, and then I'm now at a college called Cairn University, a Christian school. I'm studying for psychology. I want to become a Christian counselor. I did not think of that right off the rip, because I first went to East Stroudsburg for accounting, and I realized that was not my field. And yeah, so right now I'm experiencing my first semester at Cairn. I'm loving it there. My first class is ending this Sunday, so I got a lot of work to do tonight, tomorrow. But 3 more are starting this 2 weeks from now, I believe, almost 10 days. So, yeah.
Hello, my name is Toby, and I am at a private Lutheran school in Glen Burnie. I am in 4th grade. And I can't wait to get to a different school because, people boss me a lot.
And I'm Brett. Hi. I'm Manuel. I am in 46th grade. No, I'm finishing my D-Min at ILT right now. So.
I could also mention I'm also a public high school teacher. I teach high school English in Yonkers, New York, which is a very urban area of Westchester County. And so I also have thoughts about, the world, the secular world of the public school system that definitely impacts, my ministry and how I feel about, being a Christian in this society. But I just want to start with kind of a basic question for you guys. What is the single factor that has had the greatest impact on your faith and your faith development? The one thing that you would say sticks out to you as being important to you in your faith journey.
Okay, well, I have always been raised as a Christian. My parents, really my mom, took me to church from when I was literally just born. So that's it's the first thing I learned, so it's stuck with me over everything else, even though I've had people tell me, that's not the truth. My religion's the truth. There is no God. It's always stuck with me because it's really the first thing that I learned, and I learned that it was the truth from a very young age. So I wasn't influenced by other people who told me that it wasn't as much.
It's a great question. I haven't really put much thought into this. I always realized that I was raised Roman Catholic at first with my mom, my dad, my brother, and I. I'm a first-generation immigrant. My parents came over here with that influence of Roman Catholicism, and so when we, after COVID, were starting to get into Lutheranism and exploring the differences between them, I found a much stronger intention. And intention and morals was such a big factor to me, but it also was mostly my mom. I haven't thought of that until the 30 seconds I had the time to when you proposed the question. My mom, she emigrated from Portugal, and she was probably the best example from that family. I think she had like at least a dozen, no, 8 siblings, I want to say roughly, and she was the best example, came here out of maybe one other sibling, and here I am. And so with her hygiene, living in a poor home and all that stuff, all of the, no, this has to be done, this is right, this is wrong, all of that was very important to me growing up. And I found that answer in Christianity. And I only learned so much as to where I was, and I learned how to profess that in the public space by going through public school and seeing what everybody else was doing. And everybody else was doing their own thing, and I did not like that very well for me. You know, I liked public school because it was a great place to test my faith and to share it with others. And if I had not gone through that experience, I don't think I would have believed it as much as I do now, if that makes sense. So I guess my answer to that would be a sense of intention behind the purpose of life. It's a very deep series of words there, but I guess my sense of right and wrong.
So my dad is a pastor, and basically the first thing I learned was how to walk and not Jesus, and then I learned about Jesus. So then after that, I really like to stick with Jesus, and I was raised to comfort and support people by telling them about Jesus.
Just keep passing it around. So, I guess one of the questions I have is, these are the biggest influences on you from a faith perspective. What have you seen with yourself or your friends that maybe feels like pressures to displace Christian as your primary identity? People abandon the faith for lots of reasons. I want to have this or that relationship, or I have a friend who believes something different, and I can't believe that because they believe that, or I want to be part of this or that political group, and they don't want me to, or social group, and they don't want me to believe. So I'm just wondering if you felt any pressure, or if you've watched people abandon the faith, why they would, and what they displaced it with, what became their central identity. It was a big question, yeah. Keep circling around.
Well, surprisingly, people have actually been very supportive of my faith in my public school, which is good. I grew up around a lot of other Christians, so there have been things, there's really never actually been a thing that has made me go like, oh, I don't want to be a Christian anymore, I want this. But there have been things that are like, well, maybe as a Christian I shouldn't do this, but like I want to do it. That's really what's more affected my faith, instead of like just straight up, yeah, no, I believe this, I want to believe this, but because I'm a Christian I can't, so I'm going to believe this instead of being a Christian.
I see it a lot as community. Now, I went up through public school. I have some great friends that I still talk to this day from school. And some have gone so far off the path, and some have come back on. Now, my brother and I are in this group of friends, and we're the strongest representation of Christians out of this group. And so I do my best to influence them just enough so that I respect them as a non-believer, but I respect my values above that at the same time. Now, as far as why people may have turned away from Christ and all that, is because of the excuse of, particularly from one person that I can think of, they used to think this way. I'm young, it's time to have fun, this is the only chance I'll have, this is my prime, this is all these phrases from someone in their 18s and 19, 20, I think I have done a good enough influence on this person because they don't think that way anymore. But those from my age range, from about 18 to 21, that's what I see a lot is the freedom of, I can do this now, I can do this now. And so I can forget this because I might come back to this. It's still there, it's not necessarily gone, but it's definitely changed as a priority, and that's something that they don't want to admit.
So I'm basically agreeing with him on this. I see it as a community thing, and I would just like to help others, and sometimes don't see that, and I help others so they can see that.
Great job, Toby. I'm gonna preface this question almost with like a kind of a confession of my own. The question I want to ask, especially of Manuel and Matthias, is how much they feel a pressure to compartmentalize faith when they're out in the public square, and how much they feel that they need to self-censor and keep views quiet. And I'm going to confess that, I mean, not only do I do that a lot myself, despite being, publicly a pastor, I also teach in a secular school, and I compartmentalize, just in terms of how open I am about things. And I think I've sort of taught my kids to do the same thing. I'll say, well, in this household we believe in biblical marriage, one man, one woman, but you gotta be careful how you bring that up in public. You could be, mistaken, misunderstood. You could really offend people. You might create waves. And I confess to being a little worried, well, they could say something and say it indelicately in the public school system, and then, we're gonna have a problem. And, I'm looking at myself and thinking, was this probably not the right way to raise them? So now, Matthias, I'm going to put you on the spot. How would you respond to that?
Okay. I go into a public school. I most definitely have people in my life who would be very, very, very offended to some of the things that I believe in. I can think of a few specific examples. Right now, like certain teachers and friends, like if I were to go up to one of those people and I were to say, hey, I don't think LGBT is the right thing. I believe that it's not. I believe that it's a sin. I believe that it's not something that you should participate in. They'd be like, oh, well, there's no hate like Christian love. Well, this is like, you really are selling Christianity to me very well. And that's not like the approach that I should take. But even if I do say it with love in my heart and like the intent to help the person, they're still going to get very offended. And I believe the devil works through atheists and other religions to keep Christians quiet, to make them almost like not talk about their faith, so that like the gospel and the message of God won't be spread around.
I think this is also another issue pertaining to community, and we are afraid of losing contact to communities with sort of what we can say about our faith. I've lost a lot of friends to this, going through public school and growing more and more in my faith. That is something that I've been putting first in my relationships, and I want that to be the first thing people know of me. And when it comes to, especially with where I work, I do college and I also work on the side, and that can get really busy for me too. And I have to be careful with some of the things I say because I work, and I can lose my job, especially with how progressive society today has been growing to be. Something as simple as wearing my crucifix can be a violation of health policy. I work at a gas station. I make people food. I'm more proud of organizing things around the store, but beer. But yeah. That has also been a sort of a boundary for me, is alcohol and vices and addictions and things like that. And I try not to let that get a hold of me. I have to know my limits. And when I tell that to other people, it's almost like a new concept, is knowing someone's limits. And that alone can be sort of like a pathway to talking about my faith. And I like that. I like to introduce it that way. But sometimes when I have the inclination to be blunt about it, there's some consequences that may result in maybe losing a relationship, losing a contact, maybe a write-up at work. I never had that problem. But I've also never had the problem with being open about what I want to say. And I'm thankful for that so far. We'll see how far that goes.
Really, I do not know what that question means. So,
All right. The next two I had were kind of intertwined, but they kind of build naturally on what Laura just asked. The first speaker yesterday spoke about how we're in broken relationships, and he was focused on the sexual aspect of it. But it's true in non-sexual ways. We've got so many ways to interrelate here as a culture. We've got all these ways of connecting, but we tend to feel more isolated than ever. And you've both spoken about community, and you have too. I guess one of the questions I have is, where do you get a sense of the brokenness in your relationships? Friendships, family, church, places like this. And also, do you sometimes feel a responsibility to support and or challenge friends that you find difficult or in conflict with your faith, or that spring from your faith, but you find difficult to navigate? So.
Okay, this is a tough one. Okay, firstly, I have a lot of friends who aren't Christian. I have definitely tried to tell them about my faith. Some of them, especially my best friend who's Muslim, has tried to tell me about theirs. And it's hard. It's like they think that they know what's right, and it's very hard to get like a message across to them. So you have to do it. You're like what Mom just asked. You don't want to offend them. You don't want them to stop being your friend, and it's like it creates like a sense of almost loneliness between you and other people, because a big part of your life that you know is the truth, you can't really get that message to others. And it like, you're like, well, I don't want my best friend to go to hell. I want him to be saved. But I also don't want to lose my best friend. It's like you're tempted to not share your faith with them because you don't want to lose them. And it like creates like a sense of loneliness and makes you like almost like not want to spread your faith, because it like widens the gap between you and other non-Christians.
Can I just kind of like expand on that question a little bit? Do you find that being best friends with a committed, devout Muslim actually gives you some kind of common ground in a secular culture, where you could sort of, acknowledge that you both have, this very strong faith, and that you could find points of contact in that?
Yeah, like there are a lot of beliefs that we share, and a lot of temptations that neither of us will partake in, because we have something to believe in that is telling us, like, no, don't go participate in that prank, don't join that group chat, don't join that conversation. It's like it helps us separate ourselves from sin, but still my religion and his religion are vastly different. So it's and we believe very different things about God and the way he is. So it's hard to like get point across to him, and it's hard for him to get it across to me just because of that barrier.
To answer your question, your little addition there, I'm not friends with anybody from other religions or any other like particular sect of mythology, if you will. But I imagine that if I was friends with a devout Muslim, it would make sense that we both have the same inclination to mental acuity and focus in what we believe. And I feel like that would be the common ground, is we'll stay away from these habits, these addictions, these vices, all of these things, these bad influences to people, groups, all these things, because we have a bigger focus than just what we are here to do in that sense. That's what I see if I was friends with somebody like that. I don't have that opportunity to experience that. But as far as your question about what was it about? Communicating to friends about things that they should or should not do. I have too much experience in that, especially with friends from public school. And I will say that with how critical I can be, I have made some friendships grow from scars that I would have never seen before. And it's just something that I feel inclined to do. It's something that I think the Holy Spirit will sometimes let me do when it comes to, you shouldn't do this. And not because it's biblically inaccurate or you're not doing it from the right perspective or you're not thinking straight. It's because it may harm you, your family, people that look up to you, people that depend on you, all of these things and other things that you don't really have to draw a religious perspective for, you know, and that sort of challenges somebody in their way of thinking, and maybe that is, again, another path to talking about your faith. And I'm very proud to know that a friend of mine that I've met when I first moved here is coming to know Christ more and more. I want to say through the things that I have done, but I don't want to take credit for that at all, because sometimes things come out of me in an instantaneous moment, and all of a sudden I'm told I'm wise. I don't believe that. But it's that kind of iron sharpens iron that is necessary in today's world, especially with such a declining society and generation, with leading into these vices, addictions, and taking pride in it. That is something that has to be addressed, and I feel like that's the only way we can, is by being critical towards them this way, you know? And you don't have to do it from a demeaning position. You don't have to look down on somebody doing this. You're doing this because you love them. And that's the perspective I had when I was doing this with one of my friends, and they see it now. But sometimes it takes that persistence, and it takes that gentle way of talking to a friend, because they're a friend to you if you're talking to them about something that you're afraid of them doing about themselves, to someone else who could be looking at them as an example, all those things.
First off, that question was easy until she put on that add-on. So I would basically say that if you disagree with someone, I would just say that you should just help other people understand, and if they don't do that, a real friend would help you believe the thing you would do.
The question I think probably that's most important for today is, we want to ask you guys, the youth of the church, what you want from us. You know, what are the ways that we, your pastors, your congregations, can support you? And of course, you know, some little context here, you know, churches argue about the best way to reach youth. Should we have these types of programs? Should we have pizza nights? Should we have, you know, youth pastors who can play guitars and be cool? will children be bored being forced to sit through the service? So keeping some of those questions in mind that we're always arguing about. What's the best way to reach the youth and not lose them? And also, like, we don't want to pander to you. We don't want to disrespect your maturity as Christians. What do you want from us, the church?
Okay. This is especially true for teenage boys and young men, like Gen Z, that generation. The church should give, like, our faith a purpose. So, like, it's almost like it's a male instinct to get out and do things and, like, help. So, and not, like, just sit through a service and listen to the word, but to actively go out and even help to spread the word and to spread God's good deeds, like mission trips, to help others. And, like, it makes you feel good inside. It makes you, like, get closer to God when you know that, like, people in need, you're helping them. So things like mission trips and things to give faith, like, almost like a purpose, and to make you seem like God is working through you for good. That would be what, like, my generation would need the most from a church.
Mission trips are awesome. Some of the best spiritual experiences I had were helping other communities and doing it with fellow believers, doing it with Pastor Brett. It has certainly changed my life and sort of what I aspire and what I reach. It heightened my limit of what I can experience through Christ, is these kinds of activities through helping others. Now, as far as what we would like to see from the older generation, I've also had so much fun doing things like our spaghetti dinners at our church, where we kind of partner with what's his name? Nathan and yeah, him. He's a grandpa at our church, and he's a great cook. And we would participate in helping him and doing this huge spaghetti dinner. And some of the funds would go to our youth trips and our youth group and all that activities and stuff. But doing that as well as serving our church that come in, doing little things like busing and taking food out and bringing them to shut-ins. All of these activities make you feel involved in our church. It's that kind of intergenerational connection that I think most youth would also appreciate, is getting to know some of the older members of our church. Game nights. We have game nights at our church. I have met our current president of council and have bonded with him so much over ping pong. And he has beaten me every time. And the first time we played with each other, he told me the last time was 12 years ago. And it was on a cruise. And I couldn't believe this. And all of these things, as I'm figuring this guy out, at the game of ping pong and all that stuff, it's also a very wise interaction in the sense that I get to know a lot more about life from an older guy from my congregation. And our rehearsals, I've gotten to know so many amazing people through our praise band, through our choir, through people that come and go and lead worship sometimes. I'm outside of youth group now, but back to mission trips, that has also been such a great experience, getting to know people from other churches as well, all across the country and all that stuff. That is also amazing. But I think the perfect answer would be stuff like game nights, these tiny little activities at our church that are welcome to all, that are welcome to old and young, sitting around a table, eating even the potlucks and all that stuff. I've gotten to know a lot of them, interesting people from my church I would have never thought of before if I hadn't gone to some of these events. Yeah.
I would say pastors that know how to play guitar sounds amazing. So, and kind of like what he said, little activities like movie night and corn mazes and stuff like that, they help us bring them together since we talk together, and it's a we have community fun.
if you know somebody very well after a game night, like I said, the president of council, you show up on a Sunday morning and you're like, hey, and now you know him better. And now you get to see him in worship, and now you get to talk with him and fellowship and all that stuff. That's all amazing. And all that stuff can start from just getting together over something small like ping pong or pool or billiards, all that stuff.
It was interesting. I don't know. I was anticipating, because where my brain goes when Laura asked the question, we had the same. I think that's the only question we had in common. That you guys gave relational answers as opposed to. I expected you to say, like, we need more of this, or we need more of that, or could you preach this way, or could you? And I was thinking of the content side of faith, but that we communicate through relationships, that catechesis and formation happens in the context of relationships. So I want to thank you guys for all that, all three of you. Okay, I'm going to tee up on my least favorite ministry I've been obligated to do for 30 years, and that's confirmation. Because it feels like a classroom situation with very little relationship. I keep saying, mentally, as I go through confirmation classes, I'm like, just stay around till youth group. It gets fun then, And it's not the fun part of it, but it's the relationships, right? You didn't go through confirmation. You came to our church after that age, but you've watched a lot of your friends go through that who were in youth group with you and things like that. How could we, in your estimation, ministries you've experienced so far in the life of the congregation, what could we do to make, the content has to stay the same. We still have to teach the faith. We have to teach the 10 Commandments, the Lord's Prayer, the Creed, and why you believe what you believe. But how could we modulate some of those ministries to make them more engaging, more interesting, and frankly, meet you where you are?
Well, I think that a way to make service more interesting to my generation is to kind of show how certain Bible stories and Bible passages relate to young people. I can't really think of any examples right now, but you teach a Bible story, and you would relate it to not even just young people, to different members of the congregation, show how they can learn from it, and how it can affect their life if they live by what it says, or they use it as an example of what not to do. That could really help make services firstly more engaging, and then more helpful for people, so that they can actually get something, they can take something away from what's being preached.
I think maybe on this one, involving family, involving the parents, maybe can be a good influence, because I can't tell you how many times I told my mom, I want to come to youth group tonight, and I didn't have a license, and she had to drive me, and it became sort of like a, why do you even go to youth group question, and to me it was a simple answer, but to her it was something a little bit different to comprehend, especially with joining a Lutheran church so late, and all of us in the home sort of learning at the same time. And the first time I ever got used to going to youth group, I went to CCD in the Roman Catholic Church. I got confirmed in the Roman Catholic Church, and I admire the Lutheran confirmation so much more than the Roman Catholic, because it was stand up, the bishop asks a question, everybody mumbles at the same time, you sit down, and then you go get confirmed. There was no intention in it, and everybody who went through my confirmation and my younger brothers looked like they were there because their parents put them in, and they went all the way up. But with the intention, if the little kid wants to do it all the way up, at little kid, I mean, some people who are confirmed are in their late teens, but if that is such an intention to them, why not include the family and let them join in on the support as to why they want to do this? As far as modulate, can you rephrase the question?
How would I change ministries to make it more engaging?
fun. That is probably the simplest way to summarize that. But I guess bonding, having activities where you can bond with others in the same situation as you. Like, I've had some of the best youth groups with some best friends, with, or after some activities where we got to know each other very well, all that stuff. When you have a strong knit community like that, when you know people very well, all things become fun. That's kind of the way I see it. I don't think it's a sense of changing curriculum. I think that's grayish if you try to change curriculum to make it more interesting. I don't know about that. But as far as making sure everybody's connected with each other, making sure it's not so much of an inconvenience to the family, letting the families know how important it is and how interesting it can be for the child, how much they enjoyed, how much fun it is for them and their peers, maybe including families in some activities. Because my mom kind of wanted to show up to youth group, but I was like, I don't know how well you fit, in that little session, but that's the best way I can put that.
Maybe we should let me change the question a little bit for you. What's best about Sunday school for you? Because I'm assuming you're not in confirmation class yet, right? So tell us about Sunday school. What's best about Sunday school?
Snack time.
What's the worst?
Yeah.
All right. Laura, I think you had one more question beyond mine. That was my last question because I wanted to keep things open, but I think you had one more after that, didn't you?
Both these guys, Manuel and Matthias, I was thinking, there's some truth to that cliche about guys versus girls. They talked about the relational aspect of ministry, but the doing. They want to be out there doing. I guess not sitting around talking about their feelings in a Bible study. And I do think that and I think Matthias picked up on it too, and he talked about guys being mindful of the mostly God-created differences between men and women that we as a society try to pretend don't exist. They do exist, and young men especially in this culture need us to be mindful. And the very fact that both of them said they like to be out there doing and serving and being active, I think is a wake-up call for us. Maybe, is there anything that we didn't cover that you thought we would cover that you want to bring up while you have the attention of these people? Right. Darn. Oh, we have questions from the audience. Oh, okay. Here we go. Yeah, let's do that. I told him we did set it up a little bit like a firing squad up there.
Okay, so listening to you, do all of you come from churches that have active youth groups? And if not, I'm just wondering, how has that impacted your growth as a follower of Jesus if you've not had that youth group experience?
Well, you don't really have much of a youth group, so you want to start?
Yeah, as she said, we do not have much of a youth group. There's 2 other kids at my church who are about my age, and other than that, there are a couple of very, very young, like less than 1-year-olds who sometimes come. A couple of 5-6-year-olds. We have a 2nd grader, but really we don't have very many kids. I would say the average age of our congregation is probably I would assume to be in the 50s. So we don't have a very, what?
I said you're probably correct.
Yeah. we don't have a very active youth group, and it's been a goal of our church to try to expand our youth group. We wanted to expand it for a while, but there isn't enough of an audience. There isn't enough people who actually want it, and we hope that there are more people who come who like want it.
Matthias, you need to find some of those 50-year-olds and ask them to join your youth. All right? They'll probably bring their wishes.
Oh, yeah. Just call it group. I came from 2 churches, and I'll say that there was not a strong community in a church that didn't have a youth group. What a youth group can bring is relationships, friends, connections in the identity of Christ. And that will grow outside of the youth group, that will grow outside of public school, private school, home school, all of that, all the way up, depending on how nice you are to each other. But, and how, of course, you age and grow and develop. But I am 100% certain that I will probably know the friends that I've had from youth group longer than some of the friends I've had from public school. It all depends on how long you've known each other. I've known the friends from public school way longer. But it's a deeper connection and a deeper friendship from friends you'll find from youth groups, and especially with the mentors and pastors who could be leading your youth groups. You get to know them better, their identity better, and you get to have a role model like that. And you get to experience what it's like to serve your community through a youth group if your youth group can do that, and those are the benefits and cons I thought of.
Yeah, we got more questions, and while I'm bringing it over, I just say I'm so grateful for the people in the NALC that are doing things like the youth ministry in the summer, because you enjoyed that, right, Matthias? I took both my kids, and it was a great experience. So I'm glad we're doing that since we all have such small congregations.
Okay. This may be the elephant in the room question. I'm not sure. I kind of hope it is. But how do we, as the church, that includes you guys, how do we get your friends and family members who don't come to church to come to church? Or, if nothing else, to come to Jesus? I'm okay with that.
Excellent question. Who wants to start? You want to start, Toby?
I would just say that I would just say that, I don't know, put a sack over their head and then carry down the church and then remove the sack.
Put a sack over their head and carry them into the church.
And if you bring them to an Orthodox church, they go to Jesus. I've had the best experience with just being authentic, with being a proper, I guess, I don't know how else to say it, persona of Christ. We all strive to become more like him, and if you try to influence your identity on top of that identity, it might not fly as well, because you start to maybe make the other person look more flawed or whatnot. If you act as truly as you can as Jesus Christ, that's ultimately the goal of sanctification, to become more like him, not to become him, but to become more like him, then people may see that of you and your character and all that stuff. And they may have you, or they may have themselves answering questions from all of these activities you may be doing, the attitudes you may have. It's all about being authentic, and of course it's difficult to force authenticity, because then it won't become authentic. It won't be authentic if you're trying to become authentic. It's not easy. But I think that's the ultimate answer. Maybe there's some little things you can do, like to evangelize, to go out and to preach and all those things. They're all helpful. You may have some people turn their heads and ask questions and learn more, but I think instead of being in somebody's face about coming to Jesus because it's something they need, it's almost like you're advertising. To me, that's my personal opinion. I don't like to advertise in that sense. It's like, here, try this, do this, you know. That's not what I like to do, personally. I've had, like I said, I had the best experiences with drawing people closer to Christ by just trying to be the identity of Christ and trying to put that above everything else. Identity is such a huge role when it comes to, or takes such a huge role when it comes to drawing people into the curiosity of Jesus, and it has them answering questions and not you asking them questions, all those things. That's what I have to say.
Kind of going off what he said, if you almost like nag people about like, here, come to church, follow Jesus, they're gonna be like, no, I don't want to. If you can't be like annoying about it almost. Like what he said, you can't advertise it. But if you almost like, you show them how you help your community as a Christian, you show them how they can help too, you show them what church can do for them, almost how much fun it is to be at church. I think that church is pretty fun. You make friends. I mean, not as much at my church, but at maybe some other ones. I've got friends from church. You just show them, it's like, it's a good experience to be at church. And you have to show other people in the community, like, church is fun. You should show up sometime. And then once you've got them in, then they're like basically like your captive audience. They hear the word of God and they're like, hey, I like this Jesus guy. Maybe I should look into him sometime. And then it's like a whole domino effect. And then who knows, they might even get like baptized. And yeah.
I just thought of something as well. It's also important to know who you're talking to. It's also important to have respect for somebody else as well. To like, maybe they have their own beliefs and they are not going to shake them. Fine. You don't have to poke it. You don't have to do anything like that. You don't have to flip a table. Those kinds of things. There are times when flipping tables is necessary, like as our Jesus has done. But even then, it isn't because you aren't coming to Jesus. It's because of some other things that they may be doing that aren't necessarily right in a moral setting, even in the general public. Those kinds of things. They could be anything, but more importantly, it comes down to respecting somebody's beliefs and not necessarily imposing yourself on them. It's about showing them Jesus without telling them Jesus. It's strange. Don't let them be a better pagan than you, a Christian. I got that from him.
Great. Oh, we got a lot of questions here. I don't know how to. 1, 2, 3.
Just so we can keep time frame for Brett, because Brett's the one that has the wedding report. So we're trying to not go too much, maybe no later than 50 or 55. No, we're okay. For June? Okay, great. That's your call.
I just wanted to make a comment to add to what they're saying about participating in youth groups and being given opportunities to put their faith to work. And when my daughter got married, her husband had come from another denomination. But what engaged him was the fact that he and his best friend were in confirmation together, youth group and everything. And when he came to our church, he did not find a group of men in his age bracket to make those same kind of bonds with. And he never integrated into the congregation before that, because of that, and they no longer come to church there because he found a church where he could find that man-to-man bonding and put his talents to use. So it's not just youth we have to look at. We need to look at our 20-somethings, our 30-somethings, and make the connection, help them make those same connections they're talking about.
Thank you. I'll go here and then here.
Thank you, gentlemen. This has been very insightful. Other than your pastors and your family, is there anyone who out there is influencing you? For example, on YouTube, seems like there's hundreds of social media influencers that are dedicating their channels to Christian theology and doctrine and apologetics. So is there anybody out there in particular in that world that you are being influenced by?
That's an excellent question, one I didn't think of. So, wow, let's hear the answers.
Well, I'm a teenage boy. I'm on social media. Not like, I mean, not like, what's it called? So on my social media feed, I'd say 70 to 80% of my videos are Christian videos. And there's one creator I have in mind. He's called Realism Official. It's been surprising. It's the little things that really help you get closer to God. But he makes these videos, they're engaging, and they're like whoa, almost. I want to get closer to God. They're not you might find them scary, but they've really helped me. Yeah. Realism Official, yeah. That's his channel name. He's on YouTube.
I think I'm familiar with that, but I'm not necessarily subscribed. It's a very complicated question because a lot of people have influences all over the spectrum of what you can be influenced by. I'm influenced by my phone, period. I'm influenced by my bed, by my screens, all of those things, by my work, people at work, those kinds of things. When it comes to actual people and content creators specifically, I think it also comes down to tailored hobbies. I have some people that I've watched that play video games that I play, that play guitar, some of the things I play, all those different inside communities of guitar, and same for games. Same for debates. I love debates. It's the first time I ever had to hold a mic in front of a crowd. I like this. A lot of my senior year of high school was about defending my faith, actually. That's what I meant in the beginning when I said a real test of my faith. And I like that. And so some of the people that I follow are people that do the same, that talk about their faith openly and defend it against people who don't agree the same, against people who really don't agree the same, all of those things. You should be familiar with this, but Charlie Kirk was a big influencer for me, for my family too. I'll tell you, I was just telling Pastor Brett on the drive here that ever since September 10th, he has not been off of my living room television because my parents also loved his content. What else? There's this pastor, I think up near Connecticut, who his name is Cliff. You should be familiar with Cliff. Cliff? There you go, boom. Him and his son, they're they go around to college campuses, kind of like Charlie Kirk used to. Are you familiar with him? Yeah, I see your head turn. He also goes and debates in the public space about Christianity with other believers, not necessarily debates if it's with them, maybe within denominations and stuff, with non-believers, with people who hate the faith, all of those things. And he is such an inspirational person to get to know from his content and to understand kind of what our purpose is in society, almost as in maybe I want to defend Christianity, maybe you want to serve others, all those things, and all these different kinds of content creators can tailor to those purposes. Now, there's obviously good and bad ones, There's some that are neutral, there's some that can take us off the path, some that can keep us focused on the path. Probably not as many on the path influencers that are out there today, especially for the younger generation, I want to admit.
Friends.
Toby, what
Well, like to watch Do Perfect. I like to watch Mark Rober. I like to watch. Most of you guys probably didn't hear this person before. Fire Chronicle, Fire Department Chronicles. And basically.
First of all, thank you all. I want to go back to the guy thing, only because we managed to con 3 guys into doing this. If there were girls here, I would ask them the same question. I'm happy that you kind of screen what you watch on the screen and what you listen to out there and stuff, but you live in a big world where this culture, the media, social media, our politicians, interest groups and all, they say some pretty nasty things and some pretty untruthful things. And about being a male and growing to be an adult male, I'm wondering what you hear, the messages from that culture out there, that society to you about growing as a man, how you feel about what you hear, and then how you respond to it. The perfect example that I can think of was that term they came up with a couple of years ago, which is dying off, thankfully, toxic masculinity. When I heard that, now I responded as an old guy. Okay, that's the kind of stuff. I want to hear how a young male, a young man, hears, feels, sorry guys, we had to get our feelings out sometime and all, you know, and responds to that. I don't know.
Who wants to go first? Let the eldest go first.
Toxic masculinity is maybe something I've experienced from the workplace as well, because I work mornings and there's a lot of women there. There's a lot of women, so all I hear is their problems. Sorry. Sorry. And they hear my solutions sometimes. But today, in today's age, and with kind of back to the influencer thing, with short form media like Instagram and TikTok, there's almost a countless number of influencers, and there's so many different perspectives and opinions and ideologies behind anything on the internet, about faith even. All that stuff can get debated online, and people can take that from a 15-second video and internalize it and believe it, and then it'll just get more and more and more content related to that on their feed and all that stuff, and it can radicalize somebody very quickly. Now, toxic masculinity, I haven't seen that, as you said, it's dying. I haven't seen that any time recently on social media. I obviously don't believe it. I don't agree with it. And the stuff that I have been seeing on the topic of masculinity would be very radicalized as well. Lately, I would also say in the political world, in terms of left and right, the right side would also, the right wing, I should say, not the right side. The right wing has been also increasingly radicalized, and there's almost no opportunity to debate opinions. There's no cross-section of ideas. There's nothing like that happening. It's just this or that. There's no in-between. And so lately I've been seeing the complete opposite of toxic masculinity, as men are destined to be with several women at the same time. They are to be the leaders of the household. That's a little traditional, leading of the household, but in a different way, almost like a tyrant. And how I feel about it, I almost want to give the mic, because I have to think about it. Thinking about things is difficult as a man, I'll tell you. Sometimes we do it. It's very destructive when things that don't get discussed enough, I want to say. And I'm trying to think of examples of toxic masculinity. I'm trying to also think of the complete opposite path. But traditional values are also, I want to say, coming back in a sense. My pastor here has been saying that the youth, people in my age range and even slightly below and younger, have been coming to Christ more. The Christian population has been growing, and I feel like as a turn, seeing toxic masculinity die as an example, and other traditional values coming back, I want to say that that is slowly returning, but I also want to say that identity isn't coming yet. The focus of identity and the focus in general of purpose and faith isn't standard in society yet. I feel like it's still a matter of pride. It's still, we take pride in what we do in this section of our lives, and when we go on to this part of our day, this is what we do, and it's still like not really evident, especially with the new culture of comfort. There is a shift between what a man should do and what a man actually does, and it's people now strive for comfort instead of opportunities for challenge. Comfort is a big problem nowadays. It's an issue where I want to say that's because not that many people are dating and getting married anymore, not because they don't want to and they hate people, but because the act of going out and meeting people and all those things, getting things done, is not necessarily looked down upon, but there's a lack of spirit and motivation to do these things. And when it comes to being a man and going out and doing hard things, that is not necessarily easy anymore. That doesn't happen nowadays. It's almost like you have to be a rare breed of a person, of a human, to, yeah, I do this, I tackle this, I'm getting this done, I have this under my belt, all those things. You don't see that very much nowadays. It's always, I'm comfortable with this career and this field, and as long as I get paid, as long as the bi-weekly check comes in, as long as I have time on the game, as long as I have time with friends, life is good. And that's all we can do. And that's the new culture I want to say is coming up, not just for men, I want to say just for this generation. Comfort is an increasing problem, especially with such a high technologically advanced environment, with AI coming around. I don't know how on board you all are with artificial intelligence, but it's affecting people's learning capabilities in school. It is affecting everything. It is affecting, how do I write a card to my dad on his birthday? Let's ask ChatGPT and get something that will check the box of, and that is how things are nowadays, is people are checking the box. There is no more, I want to do this for this purpose, for this reason. It is, I just want to live, man. I want to have fun. I want to also keep it relaxed. I don't want to do anything crazy, That's also kind of what's happening today with what a man wants to do and what a man does, is the strive to do something big, like start a family, get a high-paying job, all of those things. The actual accomplishments of those done by men today are declining.
So are you saying that the culture of comfort that we have is threatening sort of the traditional masculine role of being protector and provider of a family?
The aspiration is there. Every man still wants to do it, but every man, not every man, but some men and some people are inclined to be like, but it's not for me, because I don't feel like I want to get up and do it. Things are becoming too comfortable. I see more people, if they are lucky to get into a relationship and keep it true, they're not really striving to become a person to start a family and get ready to house kids and all these things. They're still living with their parents because their parents can afford them these, and there's not really an incentive to become a grown adult, to support themselves, to support a family. Those kinds of things, I want to say, aren't necessarily happening as quickly as they should. People are getting married later, and today's age, people that are younger, I feel like the 30-year-old man is the new 20-year-old man, if that makes sense.
Yeah. He already said a lot. Men are definitely becoming softer these days. That's a fact. Especially like he said with technology, now we have I'll just put up the army as an example. Back in the day, I would have imagined that many men would have really wanted to join the army to help their country, to defend what was right. But nowadays, if you asked a man if they wanted to join the army, they would probably be like, no. And you would maybe ask them why, and they would just say, I don't want to die. And, I don't want to die. I don't want to get hurt. It's not for me. I'm comfortable right now. Why wouldn't you? This is what God made men to do. They made us defenders and protectors. And even if that means risking your life and putting it in danger, you should still fight for what is right, defend your country as a man. I actually, as I've gotten older, I have considered joining some branch of the military in some way. I don't know what yet, probably a medic, because medicine has always been my passion. And yeah, like that, even that, doing something like becoming a doctor, becoming somebody that helps society, and not being like saying like, oh, I'm okay, you know, I have a job, I'm not really helping people, but like I'm comfortable. It's like, it's almost like selfish in a way, because we should like help, we should, as like people, we should be doing things to support each other and not saying, well, I'm comfortable, so that's all I care about. God wants us to help each other.
Pick up our cross. How we doing on time? That's it, okay. All right. Do you wanna close with anything, or? Well, gentlemen, you rose to the occasion. I have to say, I learned some things about my own son, which was great. And Manuel and Toby, you did wonderful, and I think we got a lot of insight. And thank you, audience, for your questions.
Thank you once again. Thank you, Maurice, for hosting us. Those of you who are here from Holy Trinity, thank you as well. And with that, I am going to officially close our convocation in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I forgot to double check. Any other last-minute announcements we need to be aware of?
There's a basket down there. And also your evaluations. We really need to get a feel from everyone as to whether what was good, what wasn't, what should change. We take those to heart and really, really use that to plan for the next year. So, and anything you'd like us to come up with a topic, put that on there too. There's a line for that.
The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you and praise you for granting your Holy Spirit not only to us, but to all of our presenters these past days. We ask that you would continue to bless them with your presence and support. May you bless the members and the ministry of Holy Trinity, as they have been a blessing to us in the Atlantic Mission region. We ask your continued blessings upon our faithful shepherd, Bishop Shalbo, and his family, and watch over him and protect him in all of his travels, as we now ask you to make our ways safe and our homecomings joyful. We also ask you to bless the food that we are about to receive from your bounty. Bless the hands who have prepared it for us. May it strengthen us for our journeys home. And we pray that you would continue to guide us in your ways to the praise and glory of your holy name. Amen.